13 defeats in a row, nilled in Paris. Where do the Welsh team go from here? Hello, amateurs, and welcome back to our Six Nations series. I'm going to be here with you throughout the championship and beyond, and I've got a ton of great guests to impart even more expert knowledge for you throughout the tournament. So hit subscribe down below to make sure you don't miss out on any future episodes. Now, Wales got off to a losing start, 43-0. Myself and my friend Stephen Corlett, known to everyone as Taff, did a deep dive on that one, and we will link it up there. Big chat about how the game went, all the big points, what went well for Wales, because some things did, but a lot of things didn't as well, let's be honest. So go and have a look at that one if you want the full match review. But today, I'm going to be looking at what I think the Wales team will be to face Italy this coming Saturday in, well, people are calling it the Battle of the Wooden Spoon. I think that's a bit unfair, but it has certainly been in the last few years the case. Some squad updates for Wales. Tane Plumtree has come into the side, into the squad in place for Aaron Wainwright, who must have had a really nasty gash in his face to be missing another week. Sounds pretty ugly. A lot of people were surprised maybe that Plumtree didn't make the squad initially, so good for him to get back in. Owen Watkin, who went off with, I think it was a knee or ankle, knee, I think, is still undergoing assessment. I mean, that looked a bad one when it happened, but sometimes these things don't turn out as bad as they were. So who knows? I mean, undergoing assessment, that means that maybe he might be available for this weekend. We'll see. Will Griff John has also rejoined the squad, which is training in Nice. So that'll be nice for them. Now, last week, I wanted to see the Welsh team go after the French line-out. I don't really think they got too much joy there, to be honest. The French line-out went pretty well. And I wanted to see them, I described it as tackling in gangs, stopping them at source. And actually, I think they pretty much achieved that. You know, they got off the line, they hit France's big runners and denied the momentum quite a lot of the time, I think. So people like Jack Morgan, people like Daft Jenkins, people like Gareth Thomas got through a ton of work. The problem was then that all those tackles, defensive line narrowed, and France are just so lethal at using the width all throughout the game, frankly. So there's going to have to be more of that from Wales this weekend, obviously, because Italy, although being slightly more pragmatic at the moment, they do like to play with the ball as well. So I think there were some good things from Wales last weekend. I think the scrum held up very well. I think they went well against the French, which is a massive French pack. As I mentioned, the quality tackling, but in attack, they seem to lack a bit of confidence to play to the best available space, which was often wide. France defended quite narrow, and there was space up wide, but they didn't really have the confidence to go there, or the skill, maybe. And then there was just quite a lack of variation and go forward in attack. So they were quite predictable, and they didn't really have any carriers to get them over the gain line. So, yeah, they looked a little bit lost for ideas, to be fair, for a little while. Okay, let's get into it and look at the forwards. Now, as I mentioned already, I think the lack of go forward, there was a lot of good things, I think, especially from the Welsh forwards, but lack of go forward was a big problem. Wainwright's, I'm pretty sure, not going to be available, which was a big issue for them. So this is the pack I'm going to go for. I thought the props did pretty well, especially Gareth Thomas at loosehead. His tackling was insanely good. I was impressed with Evan Lloyd's work around the pitch with ball carrying. Wales didn't get to carry a lot of ball, but his footwork before contact, I think, was really key to getting some extra yards at times. And they're going to need that. They're going to need those extra few yards. And in the back row, I put both of them to 8. And again, with some go forward, he's not like a consistent carrier, but Christians is a big, big man. And I think they need that physicality because the Italian side are a physical team as well. So that's what I've gone with Tommy Raffel, who did great off the bench, to be fair, in France, to come on and add that bit of dynamism, that bit of breakdown, ferocity towards the end of the game. Into the backs, and I'm going to assume that Owen Watkin is not available. And I'm also going to assume, so this is where it's quite difficult because it's very difficult to understand what Gatland's master plan is. He doesn't give anything away. And there was a bit of me that thought maybe he picked all the experienced players for France because he kind of thought it was probably going to be a hide into nothing and the experienced players could take it. And he might be holding the younger players back to go and then be full of confidence and get their start against some of the, less strong nations, the slightly easier fixtures. There's no easier fixtures, obviously, in the Six Nations, but it's all relative. But I'm not sure. I'm not sure that's the case now. I think he might stick with what he had. I think he might go with the experience, or most of the experience that he has here. So I'm going to stay with mostly the same backline, I think. I just feel like he's not going to chop and change too much. I think they competed hard, but they just didn't have that point of difference. And maybe having big, young Eddie James coming to the centre might do that for them. Wales was struggling in a similar way. I think it was last year's championship. And then Mason Grady came into the side and just gave them a focal point. He just caught the ball and went forward. And that really changed Wales's shape in attack. They just suddenly had something to play off. And I'm wondering if Eddie James might be able to do the same for Wales. He's a big guy. I'd say it looks like he's got incredible footwork. So he's not just like a smasher. Like, he'll look for edges and look for weak shoulders. And if he can get them over the game line, then things become a lot easier. And there's a lot of talented players in this Welsh team. And Welsh players typically they're good at playing to space. They're good at playing off the cuff. So that's what I think. Will it play out? We'll find out. But there we go. So onto the bench, and all quite similar again. I don't see any reason to change too many of these players. Nobody really. I thought Rafael did really well off the bench, and Nicky Smith as well in particular. But I don't think anybody let themselves down by any means. So that pretty much stays the same. So what do I want to see from this team this week? I think I've just mentioned it there, really. And the real thing is finding a way to get going forward in attack, because they really didn't manage it against France. Now, whether that is with Eddie James through the centre, whether that is actually passing to where the space is, which they failed to do against France, whether that is finding a new forward carrier to take the place of like Faletau, who's out injured, and Wainwright, who's out injured. This is what they need to do. Scotland did manage to do that against Italy. They managed to bounce through a few tackles, particularly early, and got some ground, which allowed them to play. Wales need to do the same somehow. Okay, that's what I think. That's why I think Wales are going to go forward. I think they're going to be relatively consistent with selection. Look for a bit more oomph, a little bit more drive in the forwards, and then hopefully a little bit more incision and confidence in the backs. I think they started off reasonably confident, but as soon as things started not to go their way and they didn't manage to keep the ball and they didn't manage to make ground, I think they lost confidence and got deeper and deeper. I think they need to persist. If things aren't going their way, I think they really need to stay confident, need to keep going and stay in the game. We will see. But what do you think? Is this the team that you think Warren Gatland's going to pick to take on Italy on Saturday? Do you think they're good enough to win in Italy on Saturday as well? Let me know in the comments down below, and I'll join you there for a friendly conversation. Give this video a thumbs up while you're down there. If you don't mind, it helps other great rugby fans like you find it. And you can subscribe there. You can watch that one next. And do not forget to get out and play.